Hello everyone, welcome to Code and Learn. So up until now, we have only written code to handle the connection and reply with whatever message we get from the client. In this lesson, we are going to implement two commands, ping and echo. Before doing that, I just want to refactor some of the code for handling connection into its own package. So in internal, I will create connections and here I will say connections.go. I want to refactor to move this code into our connections. Here I would create a handler. So I would say handler struct. The only field it would have for now is the logger that we will use to log debug messages. Now let's create a constructor function. Func new. It will accept the logger slog.logger and return a handler. We will just return a pointer to the handler with the logger value set. So that's it for the constructor function. Now let's implement the handle method. It will accept the context. We will use this to gracefully close the connections and then a connection that was accepted by the main. First thing we will do is create a default function to close the connection once we exit from the handle method. So func pass in the connection. Inside the default function, we will just try to close it. So c.close error not is equal to null. If error is not is equal to null, we will just log the error h.logger.error fail to close connection. Two fields that I want to add to this log statement are the remote address and the error message. So slog string, and we will fetch the remote address from the connection. Then we will do slog string for the error and say error.error, and that's it. Next, we will start our infinite for loop to handle the connection or incoming messages from the connection continuously. I will use a select statement to listen for the context cancellation. If context is cancelled, we will just return. Otherwise, in the default case, what we will do is first try to get the message or the resp message from the connection. Message error, for this we will use the resp package, resp deserialize, pass in the connection, which implements the IO reader. If error is not is equal to null, inside it I will check if the error is IOF. I will just return because at that point the client has closed the connection and we don't treat that as an error. So if errors.is error io.eof, just return. Otherwise we will log it and return deserialization failed slog.string the error, and then simply return from the infinite for loop. Next, we will perform some validations on the message that we get or the resp message that we get. For that, first thing we will do is if message is not of type array or length of this array is 0, we will just return a error message. So we will say error message error resp.serialize resp.new error expected array value. Error is not is equal to null. We just log it here, similar to what we did with other errors. So we will say serialize error message slog.string error and then just return. Otherwise, we will just write the error message to the connection. If error con.write, convert the error message into bytes. Error message error not is equal to null. We'll just do error logging. So we will say writing to connection failed and also add the error slog string error and then return. We can just move this return statement down here because at this point the validation failed. Then we move here, we will write continue so that we keep on reading over the next message. If the validation pass, we will handle it depending on the command that we get. So here I'm just going to do reply. Here we will create a function handle commands that will accept the array that we get from the message and then do a similar thing, that is encode this. So I'm just going to copy this here. Instead of error message, what we will say is here we will use reply and here we will say reply message, and that's it. So basically, first thing we do in handle is close the connection with a default statement. Then we start an infinite for loop inside which we have a select statement to listen for the context cancellation and then handling the message that we get from the connection. First we validate if the message is an array. If not, we return an error. Otherwise, we will handle the command according to the Redis standards. So I'm going to create the handle command function, func handle command. It will accept args. We will do resp.value and as a reply, it will return resp.value. Here, first thing we do is get the command which should be the first element in the resp array. We use strings.upper to make sure that we are handling both the uppercase and lowercase commands properly. So I will do args 0, then switch on the command. For now, we will just do default and say return resp.new error, which is error unknown command. Let's add the command to it. So we will do args 0 string and then the closing code. What we can do is to make sure that handle command is only handling the command. It can accept the first variable, which is command, which should be a string. And we don't need to do that here. Instead, what we will do is do this here. Here we will just use the message dot array, and then we will just pass the rest of the arguments as message dot array 0 to the end. So that's it for the connections. Now let's remove this code here for handling the connections and reading and writing to it. First, let us create the handler. So we will do handler connections dot new. I'm just going to change this to new handler, or the name of the constructor function to new handler. And then we will do new handler, pass in the logger. Here, what we will do is handler dot handle context and the connection, and that's it. Before adding the ping and the echo commands, let's test this out. Run our Redis server, make run, and in a different terminal, let's use npx to run the Redis CLI. Connected, let's see if we send the ping command. And as you can see, we are getting unknown command. Now let's close this out and implement the commands. For that, I'm just going to create another package, commands.go. Here, I'm just going to write simple functions for handling the commands. Func ping accepts args, which are of type resp.value, and return the response, which is again of type resp.value. So we will perform some checks here to meet the standards of the ping command. First thing is, if length args is greater than 2, we return an error. So resp.newError, error, wrong number of arguments for ping command. If length of args is exactly equal to 2, we just return the second argument. So we will say return resp.new bulk string, use the arguments and do this. Otherwise, we will just return a simple string saying resp.new simple string pong. Now let's go to connections, and in here we will add case ping. For that, we will just use commands.ping, return it, pass the arguments, and that's it. Now let's try this out again. Make run, see if the ping command is working. Npx ping test. So when we do ping test, you see we are getting a ping response. Instead, what we expect is to return test. What if we pass too many arguments? So say test1, test2, it returns an error. So the reason this is happening is because we are using the first argument, which is the command itself in commands or handling of commands. So we need to do this because first argument is the command itself. Now let's try this again. Make run npx ping test. And as you can see, we get what we expect. This is something I did intentionally because I wanted to show why it's important to divide our code into modules or packages and unit test them. So I will highly encourage you to write tests for these commands by your own, which will give you an opportunity to write unit tests and practice them. Now let's implement the echo command. Similar to what we had earlier, args resp.value, return the resp.value. Echo should only have one argument. The first one is the command and second is the argument. So if we will do if len args is not is equal to 2, we return an error message saying resp.newError, error, wrong number of arguments for echo command. Otherwise, we will just return a bulk string, new bulk string, and use the argument passed to us. Let's add it to here. So we will say echo return commands.echo, pass in the arguments, and that's it. Now let's test this out. Make run in a different terminal, npx Redis CLI ping pong ping test echo test 1 test 2, and it is working as expected. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we are going to start adding the cache for it so that we can implement the set and unset commands for our Redis server. If you have any questions, please post a comment under the video or reach out to our Discord server. Until next time, happy coding!